Geek Out! Hey, welcome to another installment of Catching Up. I'm Sam.
I'm Chris.
La 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 la.
And this week we're talking to Grace Ellis and Shae Beagle about their Image comic series Moonstruck, which debuts in comic book stores everywhere and on Comixology on Wednesday, July 19th. So, Grace, if you are unaware, is one of the co-creators behind the hit series Lumberjanes. So it's really cool seeing her to make the jump to Image, and, let's let them talk about it. And joining us this week, we have Grace Ellis and Shae Beagle. They're here to talk about their Image comic series Moonstruck, not to be confused with the 1987 Cher film, which got her the Academy Award now that I think about it, but that aside. Moonstruck #1 is out in comic book stores everywhere and on Comixology on Wednesday, July 19th. Yes. Hey, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having us. It's so exciting. Also, I feel like you can confuse it with the Cher Moonstruck if you want to. I think you'll probably be disappointed because they're not very similar. But, if you get it mixed up in your mind, that's fine with us, I think. Academy Award-winning Moonstruck, you know?
With a very young Nicolas Cage.
Oh, my God. He's so funny in that movie, though. The whole thing about his arm, oh, my God.
Yeah.
It's great. If you haven't seen it, I can't recommend it enough.
You mentioned that this Moonstruck has nothing to do with movie Moonstruck, but at the end of the day, aren't Julie and Cher's character, what is the name of Cher's character in that film? It's irrelevant. They're both just looking for the quote-unquote normal life, right? They're looking for that loving partner that's like their end game. And so,
Definitely.
I do have to, so just to be clear, in the comic Moonstruck, does every single character have a transformative quality?
No, there are humans in the world of Moonstruck, but we don't know any of them for the first couple issues. It's all mythical creatures and magical monsters, etc.
There is a joke about Divinity readers in that first issue that was the biggest chuckle I think I had in this first. But
nice.
Yeah,
I was worried that was like too dumb of a joke, so I'm glad that you liked it.
Oh, it's been really good, and I have to say, even though it's these characters, they're about, if you had to place an age on, say, Julie and Selena and all them, would you kind of put them around that quarter-life crisis point?
Oh, for sure. I think at one point we say that Chet is 21. I say that's probably about where they all are.
But even though you're kind of tackling, because, I'm like 30 now, I'm like, I guess, facing third life crisis. But that just makes it sound like I've had 3 life crises, which is a lowball estimate. But despite the heavier tone, you guys do write a very funny book, and even the art quality, Shae, has a kind of a, it's very, I thought it was very similar to what Ryan Sin was doing over on Backstagers. There's kind of I don't want to call it whimsical, because whimsical kind of makes it seem too kind of wishy-washy, but there's definitely kind of like a fantastical, almost fairy tale quality to the book.
Yeah, I'd say so. Thank you.
So, what were some of your influences in kind of creating the world of Moonstruck, both as a writer and as an artist?
Grace, I'll let you go first.
Oh, no, I was going to pass off to you.
Okay. Well, from the art standpoint, I know I wanted to keep it really kind of soft and cute more than anything. I know that, thinking of, characters as monsters can sometimes get really, into the horror genre, but it's like a modern story. It's characters working in a coffee shop, so it's everything's kind of cutesy already, and bringing that little aspect into it, I wanted to make sure it all stayed soft, and with Grace's humor, everything's nice and cute. And I don't know. I already forgot what the question was because I'm just rambling.
Well,
You're doing such a good job, Shae.
You are. It was really just okay, what are some of your more specific artistic influences then going into it? Because you mentioned, like you were saying, you wanted to kind of subvert the monster expectation with something a little warmer. But yeah, what do you have any specific kind of art reference for that?
Well, one of my big inspirations for, I guess, the style that I kind of developed for Moonstruck was Jen Wong. And I read a lot of her works as a kid. Coco Be Good was probably one of my first comics that I really read a lot. And I don't know, I think a lot of it kind of comes from that look.
Sure. Yeah.
Even down to, like, the textural aspects.
Well, very rounded, too.
Yeah.
Almost like there's almost like a manga-esque. When I say manga-esque, I don't necessarily mean like Dragon Ball Z or Rurouni Kenshin, but closer to like Tenchi Muyo
like
or
shoujo kind of look.
Yeah. You know, there is a rounded, again, kind of warm quality. If art can feel warm, it definitely kind of exudes that. And there's there's like almost like a sparkly, again, I don't want to say stuff like whimsy and sparkly because there's but there is like almost like a gloss to it, right?
A little bit. No, and I take that as a compliment. Thank you.
No problem. We aim to please. Now, Grace, how did you kind of come about, conceiving the world of Moonstruck?
Well, okay. So Moonstruck started out as a 5-page short story for an anthology that Shae and I worked on together for a class that Shae was in. So the limitations were that it had to be only 5 pages, and that was it. So I was just kind of thinking of what kind of twist could I put in it, and then another twist on top of it that built off of the first one, and having normal-looking humans actually be like mythical creatures underneath seemed like pretty easy and straightforward. And then I could have like another twist and like, oh, we think that she's like this new person is going to be like really terrified of all of these monsters, but it turns out she's one too. So just taking like that concept and then thinking about how those like monstrous personalities could turn into like personal identities for like people that have to exist in the normal world. And it just kind of built out from there. There wasn't really necessarily anything that kicked us into this like very specific tone place, as much as like that's just how I write, and that's the only kind of writing that is like, that's just like what my voice sounds like, more or less. Is like that like kind of syrupy but hopefully pretty literary place that Moonstruck currently sits in. It's kind of hard to pin down the genre for Moonstruck. I think that's how you end up in the like, it's whimsical, but like, is it really? Not really. It's like urban fantasy, but it's also like not really, because we're talking about the characters, so it's like character driven, but we're also doing magic, but also close-up magic, and then we're talking about Chet's centaur butt, It's all over the place
for everyone.
Yeah, exactly. It's all over the place when you have to describe it, but it all comes together really well. And I don't even know that I could really describe how we got there. It just kind of happened organically,
Well, at the risk of getting my nose browner than it already is, well, Julie kind of has, I think, takes a lot of romantic inspiration from the not quite Sweet Valley High books that she's always reading.
Yes.
And I think
the Mountain Sisters.
Right.
Also
well,
known as PMS.
Were you guys big into like the Boxcar Children and Babysitters Club and Goosebumps and basically everything that was at the Scholastic book fairs?
Oh, yes.
I super was. That serialized middle grade fiction, just lay it on me, Read a lot of Babysitters Club in preparation for this.
Any?
I know I was all over Goosebumps books and oh gosh, I'm gonna forget about it now. Whatever. Ignore me. I'll remember it in like 10 minutes.
Boxcar Children? That's a...
read Goosebumps. Bailey's School Kids.
Oh, yeah.
Like Vampires Don't Teach Art Class or whatever. That one's made up, but all of those.
Well, there was the werewolf, right? There was like the curse of they thought there was a werewolf running around. And it turned out it was just like the teacher like pulling a prank or something for some that the plots really never made sense. Kind of like why the monsters in Scooby-Doo were just like what their game plan was, other than to scare away college kids. I suppose.
Yeah, exactly.
The-
We liked the concept. We didn't think it through all the way. It doesn't really matter. You're going to do it. You're going to participate in this media regardless. Look at the cover. It's so funny.
I wish I still had those. The only surviving text I have from the Scholastic Book Fairs, I still have my Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark trilogy.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
With the original
my
Alvin
jam.
Schwartz art and everything.
Yeah, you got to get the ones with the original art because the new ones, it's just not the same.
No, it's like
Did they do ones with new art?
because there was too
Yeah.
many complaints about the original art.
No. That's the
too
point.
scary.
It's that it freaked you out.
You didn't have to be in the dark; you could just see it. But yeah, so
Yeah, just look at the art. I'm already afraid.
so
These kids today,
Yeah.
they don't know how easy they have it.
they get cable and everything, and they get HD TV, DVR. We had to sit through Capri Sun commercials. Anyway, so would you say? So Grace, you were saying Bailey School Kids was your favorite. Shae, do you remember what your jam was of that era? You were mentioning Goosebumps.
Oh, yeah, it was definitely the Goosebumps and the one that I still can't remember. Still having trouble.
Do you remember what it was about?
Boxcar Children.
Oh, gosh. It was Junie B. Jones. There we go.
Oh my God, I love
Junie B. Jones.
Junie B. Jones. She's so great. What a scamp.
Mm-hmm.
A regular rapscallion this side of Pippi Longstocking.
Yeah.
But so what made you had mentioned that you had started this as a short story. Is that how you guys first met and kind of, started to collaborate? Because Shae, I feel like this is one of your first major comic book projects.
Oh, it is. Going back to how it started, yeah, it was definitely how Grace and I first met and how we first started realizing how well we worked together. And our editor on the book right now, Lauren McCubbin, was actually my professor in that class who saw how well we worked together and the promise of the story and the where else we could take it. And she actually encouraged us to get together and hey, can we make this a series? And now we're all three working together on it, and it's super exciting. But
it's really fun. Sorry, I didn't mean to step on you.
No, you're
It's very
fine.
fun.
Yeah.
We're a very, very good team. It's convenient because we all live in the same city. I almost said we all live together. We all live in the same city, so we can just meet up whenever we need to. And it's crazy to be able to work on a comic where everyone is face to face because comics are so collaborative. And Shae is such a dream to work with because they just want to draw everything.
That's all I want to do.
It's like music to my ears.
Do you guys get inspiration from kind of brainstorming in the coffee shop as people walk in? You're like, that dude's totally a Minotaur. That's who.
Oh,
that is.
absolutely.
I mean, literally, yes.
Now, Grace, you co-creator of Lumberjanes over with Boombox. What made Image the right publisher for Moonstruck?
Well, Image we knew that they were interested in branching out a little bit more into the YA type of thing. And we were like, we have a YA type of thing. And the gist of it is that the Image deal is incredible, and you're not going to find anything like it at any other publisher anywhere. So I'm all for that. They let you do literally whatever you want. And the stuff that's in Moonstruck is a little, I think, more literary than the stuff you'll find in a lot of Boom books, which is not a slight against Boom books. Just to be clear, it's not. But I think that Moonstruck is a very, very Image book because it ended up, the concoction that is Moonstruck ended up being very unique, I think. I think that it's a good fit,
Mm-hmm. Would you say that Moonstruck has a bit more of an edge than Lumberjanes? I mean, you're looking at characters that are, in their earlier 20s, and, they're trying to, whereas the Lumberjanes are kind of figuring out their own burgeoning, or kind of going through adolescence. The characters in Moonstruck are kind of figuring their own burgeoning adulthood and where they fit in the real world. So I hope I just didn't answer the question that I just posed.
No, you were just volleying it up to me so I could spike it down.
Sure.
No, I think that I don't know that edgier. I don't think that I would choose the word edgier. I think it is a little bit older though. Not to say that it's not also an all ages book, but I think that calling it a YA book is not incorrect necessarily. I think there's just more happening in it, you know, because the characters are older and there isn't as much like friendship tension necessarily in Moonstruck, you know.
Would you say, I mean, you had kind of intimated as much earlier, but would you say that, you know, all age-friendly comics and stories are just like right there in your wheelhouse?
Oh yeah, for sure. I'm not saying that I don't have it in me to write like a quote unquote adult story. I just think that most of the comics that I am kicking around right now would work as all ages and wouldn't necessarily be improved by adding a lot of like sex or blood or swearing, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Just things that would like make it not all ages.
That's fair. Just for the record, we totally swear on the show all the time, so you guys don't feel hamstrung at all.
Oh, thank God.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we earn that red E on iTunes every week.
Well, the shackles are coming off. I can feel them.
Totally. The world is your oyster. So, with Moonstruck, I mean, again, most of the characters we've seen so far have this transformative quality, but it isn't, from what I can gather, it isn't necessarily an idea of coming out in homosexuality. It's not that kind of transformative metaphor so much as them dealing. Their transformation seems to be linked more so to their own insecurities, which could include sexual identity. But yeah, is that kind of closer to the home? I mean, because Julie, when she freaks out, that's when she goes full American Werewolf in whatever metropolis this is. But yeah, so that's a quality I really enjoyed to this book because it's something that we haven't quite seen before.
Thank you.
Yeah, when we were thinking about building like more full personalities for these characters, I was thinking about how I should preface this with I did take a lot of women's studies classes, so this is where that's coming from. Thinking about how like all of their identities would be informed by this like magical quality, because things like sexuality and race aren't just like surface level things. They affect how the world sees you, and how the world sees you affects how you interact with the world in turn. So your personality changes based on those things. So in the world of Moonstruck, things like turning into a werewolf, you know, that's like, it's not race and sexuality, it's an other, you know? Mm-hmm. So like Julie is really ashamed of being a werewolf. So she is really anxious about how she'll always wolf out, you know? Mm-hmm. Whereas someone like Chet, who is a centaur, doesn't really have a way of hiding that. So they take up a lot of space, and they're very like outgoing in their personality because there's like, it's all out there, you know, it's just all on the table all the time.
Sure.
You know, so that's kind of how those two things became intertwined. There's not really a real world parallel to them. I'm hoping that it's just kind of a way for like critically engaged readers to talk about that connection between characteristics that the world thinks of as other and how we are impacted by them personally. You know,
it is a neat narrative inversion, because the idea that a werewolf is most, in this case, at her most vulnerable in her, and most self-conscious in her wolf form, because when Lon Chaney turns into a werewolf, like, all bets are off. But when Julie turns into a werewolf, yeah, she's at her most self-critical. which I think
That's
is
a
neat.
very good observation. Not one that I had thought of. That's so smart. Oh my God, I'm gonna steal that so much.
Feel free. That's a geek out.
I'll give you credit. I'll give you.
Yeah, we'll credit you.
That's great.
If you want to name a character Sam, I would be all for it.
I can do that. What kind of characters? What kind of character do you want it to be?
Well,
if you were a mythological character, what would you be?
do I have to be
Now we're asking the questions.
See,
Yeah.
and we have a book review coming out after the embargo ends next week, and Jake and I, one of my co-hosts, asked ourselves this question, and he asked me that question, so I'm prepared, and I'm not stalling when I'm saying this long-winded diatribe, I promise. But I think it's not necessarily mythological, but I think I would probably make a good panda. Like I think
a panda?
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm half
We
Korean.
can definitely make that happen.
Yeah, I'm Korean Irish, so I love both. Even though pandas are in China, not Korea at all. I don't know. Maybe I'm geographically confused, but I think a panda would be pretty cool.
Yes.
Well, if you feel it, it's just your personality, you know.
Yeah.
You feel like a panda.
Yeah. Well, I
That
mean,
has nothing to do with geography. That's just who you are.
it is. I mean, I kind of own it. I got kind of compared to a panda a lot in college because people can get racist, but the other side of that is but you learn to own it.
Well, I already know exactly what we're gonna do, so don't worry, it's coming.
Oh my God.
Just because of that great werewolf observation.
Oh man.
Look forward to Sam the Panda.
Yeah, and the panda. Oh man, that like really flows off the tongue too.
Yeah, that
This
sounds
is great.
good too.
Oh my God.
There's real magic happening here tonight.
If you guys are looking for an assistant editor, but I digress. So one of the cool things, there's a lot of anticipation building, and this is in very ways. A lot of stuff happens in this first issue. It's also kind of, as most first issues are, it's a bit of a setup issue. We haven't even quite seen Selena yet. So what can we expect when Selena bursts onto the scene and the rest of the characters, the rest of the supporting cast are introduced to her, and how, say, her relationship with Julie intensifies?
Shae, do you want to take it?
Well, you're definitely going to see Julie and Selena like almost first thing in the second issue. They go on their date to the magic show, and again, like hijinks ensue. So you will definitely get to see her. A little bit of how she reacts to other characters as well. They're definitely going to be meeting a lot of Selena as the issue goes on, and as the story goes on as well. And she's quite the opposite of Julie.
So she's much more confident, almost to the. That's an interesting. Is it the old opposites attract axiom made literal?
A little bit, yeah. And Julie gets so. This is a little bit of a spoiler. I know that Shae was walking around it, so I'm just gonna drive straight at it.
I'm trying to tiptoe around spoilers over.
I know. It's a light spoiler. Julie gets so nervous about the first date that she invites Chet to go along with them. Mm-hmm. So Selena and Chet meet just immediately, and because they're both like ultra confident, they get along famously. And it's really sweet. It's very cute. I hope.
Though even Chet,
you never know when you're writing these things. You know.
That's. I always feel like that's the most interesting thing, though. Like MASH would do it all the time, and I'm referencing MASH because apparently I'm a dad now. Apparently I'm that old. But MASH would stick characters that don't normally interact, or at least interact the entire episode, and they would put them on literal forced road trips all the time. So you would see how those characters would be forced to interact, and I always thought that was so cool.
Yes, that's my dream. Just character studies, mash them together.
Having said that, Chet, even though he's like you were saying, he's a centaur, he can't really hide who he is at all, nor does he appear to have any desire to. he is not as calm and collected as he appears, especially when a certain minotaur kind of comes through the coffee shop. I presume are we going to see more kind of? It's not quite cracks in the facade, because I don't think it's necessarily a facade, but are we going to see more things that kind of cut him to his core and make him, throw him off his game a bit?
Oh, for sure. I think that, well, I knew I was going to answer it until you said throw them off their game a little bit, because that's a whole other part of the story.
Man.
We're definitely gonna get more of Manny the Minotaur, because
and
he's
a lot
big old
of
hunk.
development.
So there's so much.
A lot of chess development.
Yeah, there's so much. Issue 3 is like all Chet all the time, because Chet's so fun.
Is it going to kind of be like almost like a Girls-esque scenario where we'll have certain issues just focus on ancillary characters that we wouldn't normally follow?
A little bit. I'm overstating it a little bit by saying that it's all Chet, but it's definitely I'm trying to spread out the character development pretty equally among the main 3, Julie, Selena, and Chet. So issue 3 is where we start getting like a lot of Chet,
What would you say is over the course of this first arc are the kind of the far-reaching themes?
That's tough. I think normalcy, like the idea of what counts as being normal, is a big one. What it means to like support your friends and the people that you care about, and like what is effective as like showing that you care about someone. What do you think, Shae? I feel like there's so much going on. I'm sorry.
Yeah, there's a lot going on.
I've been so deep in this, I don't even know anymore. I'm just looking up from the bottom of a hole. I can barely see the sun.
Oh man.
Yeah, you've definitely been in there on the story.
Yeah, I'm impressed they get spell reception down here.
Yeah, like you said earlier, it is a very character-driven story, and you get to see a lot of how they react to other things happening to their friends, and when things aren't so happy and cutesy, how that can affect friendships and even as far as like identities. It gets a little deep in some places, but again, I don't want to say too much.
That's a much better description than the one I gave.
No,
I
I've worked off of your description.
Aw, you're so sweet.
Y'all complement each other.
Exactly.
Yeah. You're a true collaboration. Y'all complement.
Yeah.
Team, we're all bringing something different to the table.
So, visually, Shae, what are some of your favorite things to kind of draw and visualize into this story?
Oh gosh, a lot of I love designing all the characters. I love having them be so expressive, and in a story a writing style that Grace has that allows me to have them have that level of expression. I guess some of the challenges are trying to fit mythical creatures into things that are more modern.
This has been another Geek Out production. If you enjoyed what you heard, hey, we've got a special episode every Friday. Of course, there's the usual catching up show every Wednesday. And you get book club episodes just about every Tuesday these days. Thanks for listening.
Centaur into the back of a cab has been quite an adventure. Just trying to get Chet anywhere is quite an adventure. But there's always, I guess that problem-solving aspect is one of my favorite things, too. Just thinking in more world-building aspects. Like, if centaurs are a normal part of society, wouldn't there be some kind of cab made specifically for centaurs? So now I'm thinking about these kinds of things, and I like to solve my problems.
I feel like that would be like a Flintstones
Exactly.
scenario, right? Wouldn't that be like where they have like their feet at the bottom of the car? Like the Flintstones?
I didn't hear that first.
Well, wouldn't it be like a...
ooh, that would be like a centaur-powered car.
Yeah. That's how they get their brontosaurus burgers and everything, if I remember correctly.
Oh, that's so good.
I need to use more.
I might have to steal that too. Thanks for the material.
We're gonna have to give you a credit on this book if we keep going.
A special thanks will be fine.
Perfect.
I need to use less dated references. I invoked girls earlier.
Stones and MASH. You're gonna sing like Hotel California next.
Yeah.
You really are, Dad.
Yeah. What's your favorite Eagles album? But that does lead me to my next question. It's something that we ask everybody that comes on the show. What are you currently geeking out over?
I've been listening to the audiobook of The Disaster Artist recently. Yeah, so I'm having a really big The Room phase right now. It's just so good. I'm just slack-jawed the whole time. I have 2 hours left on the audiobook, and I just don't want it to end. I want to listen to it at half speed because it's so good. It's bananas. I love it.
Tommy used to do, I don't think he does anymore, but Tommy Wiseau used to do semi-regular screenings of The Room at the Georgetown Theater here in D.C.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yes. So it would not be there. We're friends on Facebook, me and Tommy.
Oh my God. This is huge. Oh my God.
He's a mysterious
on Facebook.
He's very mysterious. Yeah. He's I try to stay at arm's length though, because I don't know, I don't know if it's the multiple sex scenes or the fact that his hair always looks wet but never looks clean, but either way, yeah. There's kind of that whole situation going on. But no, yeah. So are you excited for the movie?
Yes. Oh, my God. Yes. Every day I'm like, is today going to be the day we get a trailer? It's not. But what if it was? Someday we're going to wake up and we're going to see that trailer and our world will change.
I'm just throwing this out there. Maybe, just maybe, it'll premiere at San Diego Comic-Con next month.
Oh, my God. What if it did?
Is that a prediction?
Who can say?
I don't know for sure, but I feel like if there was ever a time, because South by Southwest is over, I guess there's Tribeca Film Fest is over, I guess there's Toronto and Telluride, but I feel like it might be a San Diego. It fits that crowd.
Yeah, that's a great thought. Oh man, now I'm even more excited for San Diego.
Just please don't slap me when you guys see me. I was joking around with Grace earlier because I work for Image Freelance. Like I work on the magazine and everything. And my friend Brittany actually interviewed you guys for Image Plus, which was cool.
She was great. I really liked her.
Oh yeah. She lives in the DC area too. That's how we all kind of linked up. But I was kind of joking with Grace because I work at the booth during the Image shows, and I was like, all our experiences hanging out with creators in person has been awesome. And she's like, well, I could just slap you off the bat, and I was like, well, that would certainly you would be memorable. that would be the experience.
This is a business. You got to do whatever you can to set yourself apart. That means you got to slap a couple people. That's what you got to do.
Yeah. Thanks for the panda idea. Pow.
Pow.
Exactly.
So, Shae, what are you currently geeking out over?
Oh, boy. Well, I guess I'm going to go kind of like the normie route. I've just been playing a lot of video games lately. I've been playing a lot of... My roommate has a PS4 that I never had. Was always on older consoles, but she got Overwatch, and I've been playing a ton of Overwatch, which is kind of taking up my work life, and I need to stop. So I recently moved out, and that's probably for the better, because now I don't have access to that.
How were you stoked about the Super Nintendo Classic they just announced today?
No, I didn't hear about that.
Yeah, so Nintendo put out the NES Classic last holiday season or whatever. They're doing one for the Super Nintendo.
What?
Yeah, like 20.
No, I'm literally looking that up right now.
21 games,
Don't
including.
tell them that. We need them to work.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
That's just good.
I
You're
was.
trying to sink Moonstruck, I can tell.
Yeah, I lifted up with.
You're trying to kill the book.
Yeah. They'll never get to
It's all an
the.
elaborate
Video games.
scheme.
Yeah, they'll never get to the panda issue now. I was talking to both John Layman and Jim Zub are big gamers, and what they do is I guess they're both writers, so I guess I don't know if the ethic is a little different, but they'll script like 2 pages, and then they'll reward themselves with like an hour of Overwatch, or in the case of yeah, and then they'll get back to it.
Sounds like me.
Yeah,
Sounds like me.
so you just gotta
Yeah.
Get back to it.
you just have to ration it out. That's all.
Yeah.
But outside of Overwatch, has there been any other video games lately that have kind of like tickled your fancy? I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there have been a couple little games that I've just been, messing around with, whatever my roommate has.
Mm-hmm.
She's gotten a couple of these short little games. Yeah, I recently played Inside, which was really cool.
Oh, okay.
I believe that was by the same people that did Limbo and those types of games.
Oh, wow. Is it to kind of have that like German expressionist creepiness to it?
Yeah, it's really neat. It was kind of short, of course, that's just the way the games are, I guess. But yeah, just like visually it was really cool. And I've been just playing a bunch of little games like that, but I'm trying not to anymore. Gotta work.
Yeah. I won't make any recommendations on the air. Unless
you
you're
work so hard. I'm just teasing you, just so we're clear. I think that you're doing such a good job. You're working so hard.
Grace,
You can play as much Overwatch as you
now.
want.
I can't cry. Not now.
I mean, if you are fishing for recommendations, I can maybe throw a couple your way.
I might have to hit you up later for those recommendations.
Fair enough. We'll talk in San Diego.
All right, we'll talk in San Diego, yeah.
Anything outside of, any movies or TV shows you guys into lately?
Ooh.
New Samurai Jack has been dope. Supergirl, Better Call Saul.
Is there a new season of Better Call Saul out? Because I know I watched the first one and I loved it.
Well, the first 2 seasons are on Netflix now, and they just finished season 3 like 2 weeks ago.
I gotta get me some Netflix.
Yeah.
I'm ready to go now.
I don't know if this has been like a constructive period for you guys, helping you, if I'm like giving you guys more distractions.
Here's some things you can do besides work. Thank you for the suggestions and all this.
It gets better. I swear. Like those. Like if you thought the first season was awesome, it just constantly, like a piece of oak, just gets better.
Oh, I'm ready. I don't know if I'm ready, but I'm gonna say I am.
Anything on your end, Grace, or has it just been all Greg Sestero all the time?
It's mostly just been all Greg Sestero all the time, to be honest.
That's fair.
I listen to a lot of podcasts, listen to a lot of audiobooks, because I like to walk around. That's how I, take a break from writing. I, write for a while and then, move to a different location. My life is not very exciting. It's just mostly, I'm sitting over here. Now I'm sitting over here. Now I'm sitting over here.
Any podcasts in particular that kind of leap out?
Ooh. Let me bring it up my list. Oh, man. Oh, no, Ross and Carrie has been doing alien stuff all summer. That's fun. They're not, my all-time favorite. I think that their personalities can get a little overwhelming sometimes. But they do, investigations into weird religions and, paranormal groups and stuff. Mm-hmm. So they went to, an alien conference and have just been talking about, the kinds of things people talk about at the alien conference. Things like if you see an owl, that owl might be an alien messing with your memory.
Whoa.
And that's what I'm about. tell me about the owl aliens.
Is that how like every story of theirs ends? Like if you see X, it's probably an alien.
More or less, yeah. Everything's an alien.
Keep your eyes open.
Yeah, it's like an episode of
But
Ancient
then
Aliens.
They went up to the guy who gave the talk and they were like, we saw all this owl stuff, and the guy who gave the talk was like, those weren't aliens. And they were like, you just said they were aliens, but he was like very convinced they were not aliens. So who knows? Who can say?
Only he knows the truth.
Yeah.
Right.
All those years.
I want to believe.
You big X-Files fan?
I haven't watched the X-Files in a really long time. I always get myself into trouble with this because I love the X-Files, but I'm not like as quick on it as everyone else is. So I feel like I have to say no.
I mean,
a big old faker.
If it's any consolation, I never saw the second movie or the revival season, so I think you're fine.
That makes me feel a lot better. Thank you.
No problem. Also, it makes me feel better, too, because it's a reference I made that's about 20 years old, as opposed to the Eagles, MASH, or Walter Cronkite. Walter Cronkite, that shit's timeless. He's always around, except for, I guess, he's been dead for like 30 years, but that shit's always around.
His spirit is around us all the time.
It is. Good night and good luck. Yeah, that's Edward R. Murrow. I'm getting my newsmen mixed up again. Anyway, so what, to kind of close out, what can we expect? I mean, again, you guys have kind of hinted as much, but what can we expect going into issue 2 of Moonstruck?
Grace, you want to take that?
Oh, man. You can expect some magic. You can expect some street magic, like card tricks. You can expect some crop tops. You can expect pump bands. You can expect shitty cards. Look, I did a swear. That's so exciting. I didn't think I was going to get one in. You can expect some hijinks and some heartbreak. It gets a little dark, but just a little bit. Just enough to make you sad so we can make you happy again. It's fun. It's a very fun book. There are a lot of like deeper themes at work, but I hope that it's very fun. And the art is beautiful. It's disgusting how beautiful it is. It's like drinking some hot chocolate on a cold winter day. It just like fills you up and makes you feel so nice and toasty and sweet.
Grace gives me a lot of credit.
Again, it does have a warm quality to it, so it's not unfounded. I think tonally, if I had to compare, and I'm just maybe saying this because it's an even more recent reference, but I think tonally, it's almost like a fantasy comic version of 500 Days of Summer, right? Because 500 Days of Summer could get heavy and like break your heart, but at the same time, there's a song and dance number set to Hall & Oates. There's like Han Solo randomly shows up. Like there's kind of that kind of has that kind of balance to it.
That's such a good comparison.
I like the reference. I like the comparison.
Like you're so current.
Thank you. Y'all don't know what that means to me after leading off with MASH. And Share, but to be fair, the book's called Moonstruck, so there is that.
We thought you got to go on that one.
All right, is the next one going to be Raising Arizona?
Maybe. Who could say? We're just gonna name all of our books after Nick Cage movies.
I will admit, to kind of psych myself up for this, because we kind of, I'm the only one in the studio tonight for whatever reason, but to psych myself up for this, I did listen to Believe by Cher like twice, and I was like, I'm good. And that's how.
Did it make you feel like really pumped up?
Oh, of course. That kind of Cher tackles Eurobeat, totally. Yeah,
that is a jam, honestly.
I think that came out, and I'm dating myself by saying this, I think that came out like when I was in 7th grade, and I was just, and it compared to everything else in 7th grade, like Limp Bizkit and Korn, I was like, this is brilliant.
Oh, man. See, this is really good for me. I'm feeling so young right now.
Cool.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Ooh, I'm
feeling
so
you're You're like 12. Come on.
That's true. I'm 12 years old.
So did you get the
How old are
goosebump?
you? You're 22.
Yeah, 22.
Were there still goosebump books at that point?
Yeah.
I'm just a baby. I'm just a little baby.
It gets what I'm trying to think, Grace, if you don't mind me asking, about how old would I'm about to turn 31. Grace, about how old, you can give me a range if you're not comfortable, would you say you are?
Oh, that was the sweetest way to ask that question. I'm 26.
Okay. I guess if I had to, and I don't, obviously this is just a generalization derived from my own experiences. I feel like the 20s, it starts out, you kind of, there's still all that youthful exuberance, all that youthful reckless abandon. It gets kind of weird. You're kind of like, I'm not exactly where I saw myself at, like, say, 25 or 27. And then by the end of your 20s, you're like, and I don't know if you're getting the Shae at 22, but like maybe you're more like further along than I am on this whole spectrum thing. But by the end of your 20s, you start to look back and you're like, oh, everything that kind of happened, like I wouldn't change a thing. Maybe like the more awkward moments, but you just kind of realize you become you grow into yourself. You kind of become more comfortable with yourself.
I would agree with
like
that.
that.
100%.
Yeah. So hear
My
that.
future just got a little brighter.
Yeah. So for all those 20-somethings or late teen-somethings about to get into your 20s, it gets weird and it gets kind of heavy, but at the end of the tunnel, it does get better.
Exactly.
So I think on that oddly positive, self-revelatory, man, I'm just laying myself down. Again, Moonstruck #1 in comic book stores everywhere. And on Comixology, if you're more digitally inclined, on Wednesday, July 19th. If you're at San Diego Comic-Con, be sure to swing by. I haven't posted the signing schedule at the time we're recording this. Damn it. Well, you can see it. It'll be on the Image Comics website. And, they always hand out the signing schedules at the actual booth. So check it out. Because are you guys going to have any con exclusives?
Yeah. Yeah. We have, that variant is exclusive, isn't it?
Yeah, we have 2 variant exclusives.
We have 2 variant exclusives.
Snap.
We're also gonna have some cute little enamel pins, and we're gonna have fortune telling cards that you scratch off to give you a little fortune. It's gonna be a blast. And if you come by the table, you can watch me slap Sam, and that's gonna be a blast.
I'll just walk right across from where all the books are to where the signing tables are and be like, "Hi, I'm Sam from the Geek Out." Pow. And and then I'll turn to Shae and ask if she wants to learn about any video games or wants any recommendations. That's just how it'll go.
This is a really healthy friendship, I think. We're off to a great start.
Anything that starts out with one-sided fisticuffs, I think, is something worth looking into. Because I will just let that happen. All right. Well, Grace, Shae, thanks again for coming on. And, so hope to see you guys in San Diego. And, again, that book is out everywhere on Wednesday, July 19th. You like werewolves, don't you, Jake?
I would dare say that werewolves are my favorite thing.
How dare you?
I do love a good werewolf.
What's your favorite piece of werewolf lycanthropic fiction?
Other than Lone Wolf and Pub, because that doesn't really exist.
It does in my soul.
Yes.
I enjoy Cycle of the Werewolf by Stephen King.
Uh-huh.
I also enjoy Werewolves of London because it's still clever as shit. The song, not the movie. I've not seen the movie. I enjoy chunks of The Howling, and I enjoyed chunks of American Werewolf in London.
Mm-hmm.
More than An American Werewolf in Paris.
Oh, yeah, I've never seen that. You know, seriously, like some of my favorite on-screen werewolf look ever is in the first Underworld. I love their look in that. They're just fucking brutal.
I can't remember if you mentioned that.
Probably during the She-Wolf interview.
Yeah, I want to say I've heard you say that recently. Maybe it might have been off mic because last week I was talking to you guys about how I recently purchased American Werewolf in London.
It might have been
on Laserdisc.
One of my favorite,
which you can hear about on the most recent episode. of Laserdisc.
Oh my god! One of my favorite werewolves, even though I don't like, he just turns into an actual wolf. He doesn't turn into like fucking stud wolf. Is Joe Manganiello on True Blood?
Ooh,
yeah. I need that pop, shirtless pop.
Yeah,
give me that pop.
Like prop.
Yeah, like plop plop plop.
Yeah. Yeah, cool. So, yeah, Chris, you went to Awesome Con for all of 60 minutes?
About. I was part of a wedding this weekend up in the Catskills, which very pretty country, but like no cell service, so I like couldn't do anything during the downtime, of which there was a lot because I was just a guest, but I was there for the whole weekend. So yeah, I was deprived of most of Awesome Con, but on the way back, I happened to text my friend Megan, who was in town for it, hanging out with her artist friend Scott Blair, who was like, or I was Megan's ride back to her car because she was parking it here at my house, so that she didn't have to pay the prices of DC parking. And she was like, well, hey, we're not done here yet. Do you want to just hang out and Scott can give you one of his artist badges? Because, he was exhibiting at Awesome Con. So, yeah, I got to crash Awesome Con. And basically, I came at the least opportune time because all the stores were shutting down because it was the end of Sunday. But I walked around a little bit, got to see a couple other friends. Unfortunately, was too late to see your panel, Mr. Sam.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Monsieur Le Sam.
Yes. We see.
Da.
Hi. So Awesome Con is the Washington, D.C. area's biggest comic book and entertainment convention. It's only 5 years old. It's grown steadily every year. Huge turnout this year. I only went Sunday because I had a panel Sunday on racial diversity in North American superheroes. So I got to talk about how growing up, all I had in Marvel Comics was Shang-Chi, who was a martial artist because he was Asian, and that's when you're a comic book creator in the 70s. That's kind of the connection they made. And his dad is literally Fu Manchu, who's like the worst Asian stereotype in the world. But that's all we had. And I guess on DC, you had Karate Kid on the Legion of Superheroes, and one of the dudes on the Black Hawks who was like a racist caricature, even in the 70s. And because even like Judo Master was white. Also Judo Master. But no, it was cool. I got to talk about that. I got to talk about how seeing Dean Cain as like a part Asian Superman on Lois and Clark was, kind of blew my mind as a kid. And no, it was a good turnout, and it was a good panel. The night before, I got to hang out with Joe Harris, Megan Hutchison, and John Layman, all of whom we've had on the show before. In some cases, like multiple times. So it's good to it's good hanging out with people. That's one of the things I always look forward to, like randomly running into creators at bars or parties or whatever. So I'm looking forward to that in San Diego. Though I know San Diego is always kind of like a circus. San Diego is like, suddenly it's nighttime. Like you wake up, you go to the show, and suddenly it's nighttime.
It's like a casino.
Yeah,
they bar all the windows, and they have no clocks. Yeah. So you have no idea how much time has passed.
It's like, oh God. I remember the first year we went to San Diego, we went to Vegas after. And yeah, it was not... Vegas is cool, but not when you're lugging all your luggage around because it's the one day that the airport lockers are broken.
Oof.
And it's the desert.
Yeah, I had my fun. I have no interest in ever going back to Vegas.
Yep. Leaving Las Vegas.
Ooh. Yeah. Oh, Nick Cage.
It's what got him the Academy Award.
That movie's depressing as shit.
That's what...
No need to watch that movie again.
Gets people the Academy Award. You go depressing as shit.
Mm-hmm. This one doesn't.
So, yeah, it was Awesome Con was just a lot of fun. You gentlemen get into anything? Watch any films? Listen, are you geeking out over music? God's sakes.
I listened on the drive up to the Catskills. I listened to the audiobook of Murder on the Orient Express.
Oh, Agatha Christie, sure.
Yeah, with the new Kenneth Branagh movie coming out soon. I think November. I was like, I've heard that title before. I should check it out, and it was a fun little romp. Was not hilarious, but it there was such an absurd element to it, because it has that kind of like, oh, here's some clues so you can follow along with, the detective, and you can feel like you, the reader, are figuring out, who done it. And then in the third act, it's like, oh yeah, all those clues meant nothing, and here's what really happened. And the only person smart enough to figure out is Hercule Poirot.
Yes, the Belgian guy.
Yes.
Super sleuth.
Played by Kenneth Branagh in the Kenneth Branagh
Of course
version.
he would make himself Hercule Poirot. Of course he would. Just like he made himself Hamlet.
Yeah. But he did not make himself Dr. Arliss Lovelace.
Or Thor.
Yeah.
I'm sure
He should have made himself, what's his name?
Odin?
No. Part of Thor's
Warriors
entourage.
3? Like Volstagg?
I don't know their names.
The fat one.
No. And the one that wasn't Zachary Levi, the other one, the blonde one. The one that looked like Kenneth Branagh.
The blonde one is Zachary Levi.
What was it? I thought...
Yeah, it's Fandral the Dashing. Because then there's the Asian one who is...
Oh, and then the woman.
Sif.
Yeah. Oh, I guess Zachary Levi was the blonde one.
Yeah, there's Heimdall, who's Idris Elba.
That was Zachary Levi.
Yeah. I'm surprised it didn't cameo at all in that film.
Yeah.
When I think about it.
Yeah. Because, like, watching it, I guess now, in my imperfect memory, the Zachary Levi character, the entire time I was like, is that Kenneth Branagh? Because it kind of looks like Kenneth Branagh. But it's not Kenneth Branagh. But it should be Kenneth Branagh, because fucking Kenneth Branagh directed this. So where is Kenneth Branagh?
Not there.
Yeah.
Where is Kenneth Branagh?
He should have been Malekith. Probably would have done a better job than Chris Eccleston. I love you, Chris Eccleston.
Yeah, but he didn't direct that one.
No, it was directed by Alan Taylor,
Yeah.
who went on to direct Terminator Genesis, which we all remember, kind of, vaguely.
I wish I didn't.
Yeah. Neither does Paramount. Jake, you getting anything?
Not really. I've just been working nonstop.
Like that Devo song? Just
Stop.
working in a coal mine.
Yeah.
I think it's Devo.
I'm working
Feels
for the
like Devo.
I'm working for the weekend, and then I get to the weekend
And
I'm
you're still working.
for the Wednesday, Thursday. It's just been nonstop. No, I went through a bunch of my graphic novels that I have at home, trade paperbacks, and just gathered up all the Mark Miller I have, and just started rereading all that. One of the things I wanted to do was reread the Kick-Ass trilogy, which I think is kind of like his fucking masterpiece. Because, and I won't spoil it, but I thought I knew exactly where Kick-Ass was going to end up. I thought I knew how it was going to end. I thought I knew it was going to happen.
He teased as much.
Yeah. And it's not that. It's actually a really, really wonderful way to end the book. And I remember it was in single issues when I was working at the shop, Kick-Ass 3, and I was reading it on the stands. And I was just so fucking dumbstruck on how it ended. I was like, oh, of course that's how you end Kick-Ass. You don't go for the easy fucking knockout. And it also connects to my favorite Mark Miller book in a nice little nod, which is Superior. Lionel Yu does the art on that and draws everyone like a shit brick house, and it's fucking awesome. Especially Superior himself, which I have always semi-joked that's one of the greatest Superman stories of all time, because it really is. It's everything that's great about Superman without it actually, being Superman for trademark reasons and whatnot. So definitely check that out. Although the yin to the yang of Superior would be Nemesis, which I know our buddy Vernon, I think that's like his least favorite book ever. And you know what? I can't blame him. Some people I know, if you had him read that book, they'd be fucking disgusted. I think it'd be hard pressed to find a book more kind of offensive and insane, but also you'd be insane to think that's not the whole point of this book called Nemesis. And, I think Superior came out right after or before. It was around the same time because it really is the best that Miller puts in a human in Superior and the worst that he puts in a human in Nemesis. And Steve McNiven, he gets the best artist for his shit, man. If you think about it, he gets Steve McNiven, Lionel Yu, he got Greg Capullo recently. I love John Romita Jr. And because he draws like violence and kinetic kind of energy just really well. He just gets like the best freaking artist, man. And I think the first book I ever got by him, if it wasn't Kick-Ass, it was Wanted. And that's another book that's a
damn good book.
Blow open your head.
It's a Top Cow book.
Yeah, it is nothing like the film. The film's entertaining in its own right, but he's been pretty lucky. I mean, Matthew's found kind of his guy in Matthew Vaughn because Kingsman, the book is just called Secret Service, but that book's great. But they take a lot of liberties with the movie, and I think he trusts Matthew Vaughn with that because the movie was freaking fantastic. The first Kick-Ass, which Matthew Vaughn directed, for me, is one of my favorite comic movies of all time. The second one I didn't like so much, and there's been rumblings. I know he's talked about possibly doing Superior. There was rumblings about Nemesis. I mean, I don't know how the fuck you get away with Nemesis as a movie. Jesus God, I don't know how you'd possibly pull that off. But I would like to see him try because it's fucking out of control. But yeah. So I don't know. Do you guys have any favorite Mark Miller stuff? Just because we're on the topic of Mark Miller.
Let's see. I really like his Marvel Knights Spider-Man was pretty cool, which is at the time this thing posted, it won't be anymore, but it's on sale on Comixology.
Mm-hmm. I know Red Sun is a lot of people's favorite.
Red Sun is okay, yeah. It's always weird seeing not right Superman. Yeah, it's really is. Some of his Starlight's really good in terms of his creator own.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That first issue is fucking dope.
I would probably right now I'd probably say the Wanted book. It's really good.
What that last page?
Yeah, right.
Is one of the most infamous.
And why the hell is that not in the movie?
You know what's fucking awesome? The outfit that he wears in that, for one. 2, they made a video game that takes the James McAvoy, like, it looks like James McAvoy. It's got the whole same story, but he wears the suit in it. And so you run around and do, like, the curving the bullets and stuff. The game is so much fun. I got it for $5 on Xbox 360, like, a long time ago. Yeah. It is awesome. If you ever see it, like, lying around in a bin, because you're not going to see it new anywhere.
No.
And you enjoy Wanted, or you just enjoy a good shoot-'em-up action game, it's a hell of a lot of fun. And, like, the big thing is you get to wear the suit, which is really awesome. Because the suit looks awesome in the book. Because in the book, it's super villains, not assassins.
Yeah. And they're so badass that they've killed all the superheroes in this reality.
You know what's great about that?
They have to go to another reality to kill other superheroes.
You know what's great about that is that stemmed from Mark Miller's brother. Yeah. When Mark Miller was younger, I might be getting some of the details wrong on this, so forgive me. But when he was younger, he asked his brother, because he was a big comic book fan, why, like, he believed that superheroes were real. Like, I'm sure we did as, like, really young kids, you'd see that. And he goes, well, you don't know? He's like, well, no. What happened to the superheroes? He goes, they all died in a war. All the supervillains killed them. Mm-hmm. And that stuck with a young Mark Miller until where he grew up older, and he turned that into a story. One thing I've always liked...
an Old Man Logan as well.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. One of the things I've always liked about Mark Miller is he looks at stuff, and he doesn't always stick to landing, of course. That's fine. Not everyone always does. No one's perfect. But he looks at stuff very differently outside the box. He takes things, like I said, whoever thought of a commie Superman? Looking at the, what if the villains band together in one kind of thing. I don't know. I like the way he looks at kind of conventional things unconventionally. Mm-hmm. And that's what I've always liked about his stuff. And he's also, like I said, not afraid to be bold. And sometimes that comes back to bite him in the butt, I guess. But other times you get really kind of great stuff. Like, I think Kick-Ass is such a great deconstruction of comic books. And not just comic books, but the fandom, vigilantism, violence in comics.
And how fitting that Nick Cage plays Big Daddy.
Oh, yeah. Big Daddy is the biggest difference, I would say. One of the biggest differences from movie to comic.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, he doesn't look anything like that in the comic
because
book.
Nick Cage decided to be bold.
Well, he doesn't look anything like that in the comic book, and his background's completely different, too.
Yeah. Pardon. Out of nowhere, I kind of lost my voice, and I'm trying to cough it up. I did watch the Money in the Bank wrestling pay-per-view. We record this a week off, so it happened a week and a half ago.
Yeah. Night of the Heels.
For you people in the future, it happened, let's say 17 years ago.
Yeah. Because that's how long.
Steven, if you're listening to this, it was 17 years ago, Steven. Steven, you little bastard, I know what you did.
Pick the green one, future Sam. Pick the green one.
What's the frequency, Kenneth? Hey, Zach. So boy, howdy, was it? It was a pay-per-view.
You paid for it? Kind of.
Thankfully, I didn't pay for it like in the olden days when you had to pay $60 to your or whatever the price was to your cable provider. I just pay for the WWE Network, which is $10 a month.
Dope. I still get emails being like,
Yeah.
"Come back."
I still feel like I might have overpaid for it. It was weird. Money in the Bank is like one of my favorite matches. Just because I love the concept. So thanks, Chris Jericho. But like, for those of you not in the know, so like most sports, or at least most fighting sports, there is like the championship belt. You beat enough other people that you got a fashion accessory. Boxing has it, MMA has it, other things have it.
Golf
has it.
Best trophy in the world.
Yeah.
A fucking green blazer.
Nice. It is nice.
That's awesome.
Wear it. But yeah, so Money in the Bank, the idea is that you get an assortment of competitors, in this case I believe it was 6, to fight amongst themselves for the opportunity to win the Money in the Bank briefcase, which inside the briefcase is a just kind of carte blanche contract to challenge the champion, whoever the current and reigning champion is, for a fight over for the belt at your choosing. So you can, a lot of times guys will run in right after a match is over, they're fresh and they're like, I'm cashing in, and they fight a guy that just had a huge bout, so naturally we all believe that he's tired and like, oh yep, that's boom, the guy with the contract just won, just an easy win. And for the most part, it works out like that. So I don't know. It was weird. It was weirdly structured this week or this year because they do it yearly, not weekly. That would be weird. But like the Money in the Bank proper match was fine, I guess. Who was in it? Baron Corbin, Shinsuke Nakamura, AJ Styles,
what's his name? Dolph
Ziggler, and Kevin Owens.
And
am I missing?
Zack Ryder. He's there.
Sami Zayn.
Zack Ryder. He's not there.
Well, he was in the pre-show.
Oh, right.
Because his knee finally unexploded, and he was able to reunite with the Hype Bros, with local boy Mojo Rawley. He's from Arlington.
Get it, man.
Yeah.
You got it.
Which is an interesting coincidence because it was at the most recent DC show that Zack Ryder's knee exploded. But yeah, so not Zack Ryder was in Money in the Bank.
Sami Zayn, yeah.
The ska man of WWE. But like it was a fine match. Shinsuke Nakamura was beat up before the match could start, so that took him out of the match a little bit, which kind of made me sad because he's a very entertaining guy, but he was able to make it in he pushed the paramedics aside and was like, "No, I can fight." Just in time for like the third act of the match to begin.
Taking
And
on AJ,
and everyone here in America wants to see Shinsuke Nakamura and AJ Styles fight because they have in Japan. I've never seen it, but I know that they were both in New Japan Wrestling at the same time.
If you think about it, Nakamura and Charlotte Flair went straight from Awesome Con to Money in the Bank.
Yeah.
Because they were there that Saturday, Money in the Bank's that Sunday.
Yeah. Yeah, that would have been neat if I could have met either of them, but alas, I was at a wedding. Stupid Nicole. Stupid friend of the show, Nicole. But so that was
the
cool.
show's biggest enemy is true love.
That's not far off.
What did Lindsey Buckingham say about being in Fleetwood Mac during the rumors sessions?
I have no idea.
It's not a joke. I set it up like a joke. He was just like, he was in an interview with Rolling Stone at the time, like in '77. He's like, man, being in this band really fucks up being in relationships with chicks.
Indeed.
Yep.
As a member of Fleetwood Mac.
But yeah, so Baron Corbin came in and snuck out a win, which that's fine. That's fine. I'm sure he'll do fine with the briefcase. The fun thing about the briefcase is most of the time you get the slow roll with they have a year to cash it in before it just gets taken away from them because they have another Money in the Bank pay-per-view, and they can't have two contracts going around. But like, a lot of times they'll like come out and be like, "Oh, am I going to cash it in? No, not this week." And like, when done properly, that makes it very fun and very special. The most recent Money in the Bank did not do that. Dean Ambrose won Money in the Money in the Bank briefcase right at the beginning of the show, and the end of the episode, or the end of the pay-per-view, was a title match between Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins, where Seth Rollins won back his championship belt that he lost due to injury. And then immediately Dean Ambrose comes out and is like, "Fuck you, I'm cashing in." Pop! Did dirty deeds and boom, got it. Which was great because I love Dean Ambrose. I'm even wearing a Dean Ambrose shirt right now. But yeah, so that was fine. The real upset was the opening match was the first ever history-making women's Money in the Bank ladder match. And it was an okay match. Like, personally, like I've seen all those women compete and they've put on better shows overall, which is a shame because like this is a big monumental pay-per-view, but it was fine. Like I was like, okay, this is good.
Yeah, well, like we've said before in the little bit of wrestling I've watched with you, like they've really stepped up.
Yeah.
Their game.
Yeah. Like this would have been like a really good women's match like a year or two ago, but I'm like, but the women have gotten so much better even in that short span. Like they can do like Charlotte and Becky and some of the other ladies were doing some cool stuff, but overall it was just kind of just another match. And then fucking the worst thing in the world happened, where at the end of it, Carmella, one of the female wrestlers that they have, is in the ring, and she's like hurt her leg and she can't get up. So her valet, James Ellsworth, no chin music, James Ellsworth, that piece of shit, he comes in and he looks like he's like, originally at first he I think it was Becky was like halfway up the ladder and he runs in and tips the ladder over. That's fine. That happens in like every ladder match, someone comes in and interferes and does that, but then he takes it upon himself to climb the ladder and get the briefcase and then tosses it down to Carmella, and I'm like like, even me as a man was like, you're going to have a man win the women's Money in the Bank? Even Chris. As a bona fide man. Last I checked. It was like Santino Marella winning Miss WrestleMania all over again. Which, side note, I pointed that out to a wrestling podcast that I listened to, and they were like, "Oh my God, how did we forget about this?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's right. I've only been watching wrestling for like 2 years, and I remember that shit. You guys have been watching it for like 20.
Damn.
Yeah, got
Damn.
him. Got him. Santina Morella. Look it up. Or don't. It's dumb. But he dressed as a woman to win the Miss WrestleMania back like 5-10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
It was dumb. And then like he like played it off as like his twin cousin or something like that, and Santina Morella was a legit female competitor for like a month or two or something like that before it was revealed it was me all along.
It was me, Austin.
And then he's a man.
Classic Vince.
Yeah. But yeah, so that was this week's excessive wrestling corner with Chris.
Cool.
Can't you tell why I love wrestling?
I could replace whatever ends first, Laserdiscs or the other thing,
Friday the 13th.
Yeah,
The Long Night at Camp Blood.
Yeah. At this point, because this will come out the same week as the New Beginning episode. No,
Jason Lives.
Yeah, should be good because
Yeah.
that's right. I was on the New Beginning episode. For fuck's sake,
Damn it.
You're all confused with your bonds.
Yeah. My word is mine. But, well, thanks again to Grace and Shae for coming on the show and talking about Moonstruck, again, out in comic book stores everywhere, and on Comixology on Wednesday, July 19th. This has been another Geek Out. This has been another installment of Catching Up, which is a Geek Out podcast. I'm Sam.
I'm Chris.
I'm Jake.
Fried chicken.
There you go.
Good night, Eric Bana.
I know what you did, Steven.